Welcome once again to How to Relate to Anyone. Here is Dr. Orv Owens.
Well, welcome back to our program number 10. Today we're going to be talking about values or value systems. And it's the basis of who you are. When I meet you, what you're going to project to me and what I'm going to read in your projection is your value system. And values create principles, and that's kind of the rules we live by, the things we will do and the things we will not do, the things that are vitally important and the things that we are almost insignificant. And the value system then creates our behavioral patterns. So everything you do, every action, every reaction, every tweak of the nose or shudder of the lip or whatever is all based upon your principles, which are based upon your values. So we're going to do this in a 3-program series. This program will be on the values. Next week we'll be looking at principles, and then from there we'll go to the behavioral patterns. And so you'll need to see all 3 and probably review this a couple times. I really recommend, because you have the program available to you, each of these programs should be viewed at least 3 times to really get it in your mind so that you can use it. You know, it's the kind of stuff, unless, you know, you've done these kind of studies yourself and you're just kind of using this as a reference material, whatever. But if this is fresh to you or fairly new, 3 times should give you enough understanding and opportunity or the wherewithal to apply these principles on a day-to-day basis, and it becomes a part of who you are and governs your actions and reactions based upon where you want to go with your life. So we're going to look at values today. The value system that dictates who you are as a person. After all said and done, you are who you think you are value-wise. And so what we want to be able to do then is control that, or be in a position where we create the value system that we want to project. Because if I place a high value on giving, on relationships, on helping, on being of service, place a high value on those things, it's going to influence and affect my behavior. Everything I do, every action, every reaction will be in tune with or in harmony with that value system. If I have a value system of get while the getting is good, and everything should be mine, and I should have first place, and I need the recognition that I deserve. I know that's none of you folks out there that are watching this, but there are a whole lot of people in our society that kind of live by that value system, and they're easy to recognize. They tend to be conceited or self-centered or comfortable in putting people down to build themselves up. And it's all based upon their value system. So understand, people who rub you the wrong way probably have a different value system than you. We tend to gravitate toward people who have the same values as we do. That's how churches became a center of gatherings. Some years back, I was an associate pastor and did counseling and so on for the church. And we would talk to people who wanted to join the church, and for some of them, it wasn't really a good fit. They didn't like the program, they didn't like the music, they didn't like the preaching, they didn't like the teaching, whatever. And so I would simply tell them, well, here's the thing you need to understand. There's 56 churches down the road on this street. If you just go from here to there, you're going to see 56. Try them. Find one where you fit. It's not that you're a good person or a bad person, that we're bad or good or whatever. Every church has its appeal to its congregation. The reason we have such a variety of churches. Well, that's also true in workplaces. One of the problems we have in the business world is people who are not happy with the people they work with on a day-to-day basis. Just not good working relationships. If you don't have good working relationships, you hate to go to work, and you have thank God it's Friday and Blue Mondays. So it's pretty important that you find a position in life where you can enjoy your value system and it fits with the values of those you're working with on an ongoing basis. Now in sales, you have to be far more flexible because you deal with people of all kinds of values. And the faster you can read their value system, the faster you can establish a trust relationship with them. Because I only trust you if you relate to my values. When you're off on a tangent of what's important to you, and it's not important to me, you've lost me. In fact, I'm thinking about what I'm going to be doing tomorrow. I'm not even hearing what you're saying. Ever have people get that blank look on their face? And the blank look means, I'm not with you. I'm off somewhere else. I'm washing clothes tomorrow or whatever. The problem with that is, if you're in sales, you've lost them. You're not going to close that sale. Once you lose them, lose their attention, lose their openness, they're gone. And I don't care what kind of presentation you make and what kind of offers you make and all of the good things you try doing, you just can't seem to close that sale. Well, it's because you lost that person somewhere back in communication. You have to be able to establish a trust relationship in a sales situation, or you don't have a sales situation, you have a clerking situation. Clerking is where people walk down aisles and take things off a shelf. And maybe a clerk will come by and say, yeah, you might want this one instead of that one, or you have a question, it's over in aisle 5, but nobody's going to be selling you something in a clerking situation. Well, if you're in a clerking situation and you're a salesperson trying to sell something, you're in trouble because you're not going to close a sale. It's just not going to happen. And so average closing ratio, 1 out of 5, 20% closing ratio for most people. And it's because most salespeople sell from their own frame of reference, their own value system. My values aren't important to you. Your values are everything to you. If you get that through your mind right now and start operating on that basis, you're going to increase your closing ratio by getting a good read on other people's values. And so that's what we want to do. So every hour we make thousands of decisions, and the decisions are all based upon our values. Our high values are things that are musts. The medium values are things we appreciate and like and try getting there. Low values, we hardly know when we have them or don't have them because they're just not that important. So reading a employee's values or a salesperson, a client value system is so important that it dictates how successful you are in those relationships. And in hiring people, you need to hire people that are going to fit with the value system of your company, because a company has a value system. And they teach it in their sales approaches and in their management style and in their day-to-day working relationships. And if you're not aware of the value system of your company and you're in a management role, you're working at a real disadvantage. You want to know what are our high values? What are we really trying to achieve? How are we dealing with our employees? What do we tolerate? What do we accept? What do we reject? All those things should be really clarified in a management training program. I do a course called Direction of Management, and we get into values and wants, needs, and desires and all those things that are vitally important. And we'll be touching on a lot of those things in the weeks ahead in this program. But right now, in looking at the value system, it's the basis of who you are, who I am, who everybody is. And so the ability to get a read on that value system is what we want to talk about today. every decision is in harmony with our value system and determined by those values. Every decision, every action, every reaction. And so as you're talking to people and asking questions, and especially in that first 5 minutes where we recommend that you do nothing but ask questions, you're listening for principles that they operate by, because the principles are based upon their value system. So when a person says, well, I've never done that, that's just not me, they've just told you a value that dictates their actions and reactions, their belief level, their acceptance level, and all their behavior. So reading that and being aware of it is so important in increasing your closing ratio as a sale, or your effectiveness as a leader, as a supervisor, as a manager. You cannot treat all of your employees the same. If you do, you're going to strike out with probably 20 to 30% of them, and maybe even higher. And the reason is those people are not like you. They have a different value system. So you need to talk to one person one way and another person the other way. With some people, you have to be very strong and very direct. With some people, you have to be very detailed and very factual. With some people, you have to be very pat on the back, accepting them as one of your favorite employees. All those things are part of good management or good leadership. Because getting people to stretch to meet your expectations is my definition of good leadership, and that comes from relating to people based upon their value system, not your own. Still going for the same goal of achieving the same thing, getting the same job done, but approaching it with different words and verbiage that relates directly to the value system of that employee. Vitally important. And when we go through the motivations of life in the later lessons, series of lessons actually, we're going to get into more depth of each of those different motivations. But what you're looking for is, what are the values? What is most important in this person's life that dictates their principles, the rules they live by, and their behavior? A business opportunity is created, and I'm talking about not only in sales, but also in management, is created by relating to people and accepting them for their values. And everything we communicate with them is based upon foundation on those value systems. And opportunity is great when a person can see themselves taking advantage of an opportunity. If you're in management, you have to be able to create a situation where people feel the opportunity is doable. I can do that. I can reach that goal. And in any type of opportunity, there's always risk. There's always risk involved in any opportunity, or else it wouldn't be a real opportunity. And so to be able to create an understanding of the values of what you're trying to achieve in that situation, and taking the risk and conquering the risk and becoming productive, is what personal growth and personal development and real success and real productivity is all about. And that comes from being in a situation where, as a manager, you are able to lead people into a high level of productivity by relating to their value system, creating an understanding of what you want them to achieve, and the value of that, and what value they bring to the company, what value they bring to this situation, and so on. In sales, it's the same thing. What this product is going to do for you is going to do this, this, and this, and all three of those things are within the value system of the prospect. Too many salespeople sell from their own value system. I had a real estate agent taking me through a home to show me how she makes her presentation. And as she walked into the kitchen, she says, "You're going to love this kitchen." And I told her I don't like it at all. I don't like the way it's laid out. I don't like the colors. And she went, "Oh." She didn't ask me what did I like, or she didn't walk behind me and see what I was looking at so she could get a read on what appealed to me the most in the room. She just went in and told me what she liked. Well, she's not the one buying the house, it's me. As a salesperson, you have to relate to the value system of the client, and the best way to do that is watch their eyes. What do they look at? What they focus on will tend to be the thing that's of most value to them or least value. The thing that attracts them the most is either high or low, and you need to find out. And you do that with questions. What is it about those cupboards that you like? What is it about these carpets that really appeal to you? What do you think of the color of these carpets? What do you think of the colors of these walls? Asking questions give you feedback on the person's value system. And their values are going to dictate their principles, and their principles are going to control their behavior. They will only do what you want them to do, and that is buy or sell if you can relate to their value system. Employees will only throw their heart over the bar. That means they're really dedicated if you can relate to their value system, not your own. Vitally important. Opportunity is there for everybody in any business if they're willing to take a risk. But risk involved is always based upon whether the risk is worth the reward. In other words, does this reward fit within my value system? Sometimes people offer things and it's just not of value to you. It doesn't ring your bell, so to speak. It's not what you're looking for. It's not what you're comfortable with. Salespeople do this all the time. They sell from their own frame of reference and they're saying stuff that doesn't even fit within your value system. Well, if you're a salesperson, you need to get that read on their values. The value will be greater a reason to buy or not buy than the cost factor. Most salespeople believe that the cost factor is the factor. That's the decision maker. And the fact is, the value is far more important than the cost factor. You'll pay whatever it takes to get what you really place a high value on. I'm talking about you right there, sitting watching this. You have purchased things that your spouse probably said, "Why in the world did you spend that kind of money on that?" And that's because your spouse doesn't have the same value system that you have. So dealing with clients, then, they're not going to have the same value system you have. So you're going to have to find out where their values lie and build your whole presentation on their values. In any new experience, in any development of ourselves as salespeople or as managers or as people in general, we have to look at personal development. What am I doing in developing my values so that I'm more effective in a broader base with a broader base of people? Look at positives from your history and negatives. You can learn from the negatives and develop the habitual behavior of the positives. Too often we blame other people, prospects in sales, employees in management, or friends, or acquaintances, or in-laws and outlaws for their behavior, when in fact, that's who they are, and you have to accept them for who they are and understand they might not be your favorite kind of person, but you can still get along with them and relate to them if you understand where their values lie. If I'm a grabby person and I want all the gusto and I want all the attention first thing you need to do with me is say, wow, what have you been doing, Orv? Orv is the name here. What have you been doing? What's going on in your life? And so you ask those kind of questions and let me spout off. I'll go on for 15 minutes on all the things I'm doing, all the good things and whatever. If I'm more of a shy person, a little bit withdrawn, a little bit of afraid to, put it out there, then instead of asking me those kind of questions, you say, some things that are happening that I think you'd be interested in. Now you take the lead and lead them into whatever. Relating to people based upon their value system allows you to develop a trust relationship, and a trust relationship is a productive relationship. In sales, it's closed sales and referral business. In management, it's people stretching to meet your expectations. You have the control factor. The risk is taking the responsibility. The reward is positive productivity, positive working relationships, both in sales and management, and in friendships and in family. Everything's trial and error, so you need to take the risk, learn from your failures, and be more effective in your next go around. Values create behavior. And so we want to get a good read on a person's value system and relate to their values, and they will feel comfortable with us. In our next lesson, we're going to be able to look at the principles. The principles that are the rules we live by, things we will do and things we will not do. And that controls then our behavior patterns. So we go values, create principles, the rules, the principles, create behavioral patterns. So tune us in on this next one, and you're going to learn how to read people's principles that will also give you insights into both their value system, and it'll give you insights into their behavioral patterns.